In this lesson, we'll look at some special properties of rectangles. You'll recall that the definition of a rectangle is that it's a parallelogram with four congruent angles. And since it's a parallelogram, all properties of parallelograms apply to rectangles. The opposite sides are parallel. The opposite sides are also congruent. The diagonals bisect each other. And any pair of consecutive angles are supplementary. But in the case of a rectangle, that means they must all be right angles because the four angles of a rectangle are congruent, and if angles are both supplementary and congruent, they must be right angles. Well, now let's draw those diagonals again for the rectangle, and we can trace out two overlapping triangles. You'll see we have a blue one and a red one, and they both contain a right angle, so they're both right triangles. And the red triangle and the blue triangle are congruent by side angle side because they have congruent sides in that the blue one contains the left side of the rectangle and the red one contains the right side of the rectangle, and those two sides are congruent. They share the bottom side of the rectangle, so that's the other set of congruent sides. And then, of course, they each have the right angle, so they're congruent by side angle side. And because of their congruence, the corresponding parts are congruent. And the ones we're concerned about is the hypotenuse of each of the right triangles, which happens to be the two diagonals of the rectangle. So if each hypotenuse is congruent to the other by corresponding parts, that means the diagonals of this rectangle are congruent. And that also means that we've proven that the diagonals of all rectangles are congruent. And you'll notice that now we've changed our markings on the diagonals. We had them marked as two diagonals that bisected one another, but they weren't necessarily congruent. But now you'll notice that all of the tick marks on the diagonals are the same because the diagonals are congruent and they bisect one another. So the parts created by the bisection, all four parts, must be congruent. In this lesson, we looked at properties of rectangles. All properties of parallelograms apply to rectangles. All angles are right angles in a rectangle, and the diagonals of all rectangles are congruent.